Welcome into Up in the Rafters, a podcast brought to you this basketball season by our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. Co-hosting this, I'm Taylor Vippolis, and this year I'm joined by national champion, the most outstanding player of the Final Four, and a Carolina basketball legend, the ACC Network's Joel Berry. Joel, it's conference tournament week. We're both in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., but before we talk about the ACC tournament and preview the Heels' path in the ACC tournament, we have to talk Duke Carolina. We're not going to get on this podcast and not talk about that Duke Carolina game. I know some people are going to say, you know what, that game was Saturday. Well, if you're a Carolina fan, you're never going to get tired of hearing about Carolina. Sweet Duke. Carolina wins 84-79 to win the ACC outright. What were your biggest takeaways from that game and the fallout from that game with Carolina winning the ACC?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that in both games that Carolina got out to a big lead or kind of came out of the gates and were firing on all cylinders. But I think it was more interesting in the fact that who came out and was firing on all cylinders, and that was Cormac Ryan getting things going for Carolina in those first couple of minutes, man, and he came out hot. I thought Duke did a really good job of getting back into the game and, getting it down to a 1-point game. But it was one of those games that was just very interesting to where it felt like it was always close. And I mean, it was in that point of the game, but it just always felt close. But Carolina kind of kept them at arm's length and matched every single run that Duke had. So, obviously, it was an amazing game, and Carolina got the sweep. But also, more importantly, man, when you have championships on the line, you want to go out there and, like they said, they didn't want to share a regular season. They wanted to be the outright regular season title or champion. So it was a really good game, and I was very impressed with the match play and kind of like the chess game throughout the second half that Carolina had with Duke.
Yeah, I love the intensity and the fire that Carolina played with, and I have a stat here that I saw on the broadcast, and I almost had to double check it because it just didn't sound right. But since 2002, UNC's record with a chance to clinch a share or outright ACC title in the final game versus Duke is 9-0, including 4-0 at Cameron Indoor. What is it about Carolina that when it comes to winning the ACC title and that Duke game with everything on the line, North Carolina has been able to take the fight to Duke and throw the first punches and come out with the win?
Yeah, I would say first off, that record is very impressive, especially the 4-0 at Duke. And I think there's a lot of luck in that, to be honest. I mean, it just lines up that way. But I just thought that the guys went into that game very they were ready to go. And this is what happens when you have a veteran team is that you understand what's on the line. And then also look at the dynamic of the team. All right. You have Armando and Baycott who have been there, or not Armando, but RJ, who have been there. They've been in those moments. They've been in the national championship game. They understand what it takes when the game is on the line. But think about the other pieces. Cormac Ryan, Harrison Ingram, those guys are at schools where they weren't competing for championships. And so now you come in, they want to be a part of that. They want something when they look back on their years, they want to be able to see that. And I know Harrison Ingram has some college basketball left, but for a guy like Cormac Ryan, he wants to be a part of that. I think they understood the sense of urgency, but like I said, I don't know the recipe and why Carolina just had so much success, but I think when you're just competing for championships, man, you know what's on the line. And those guys came out and they were ready to go right away, and they dissected the scouting report. You can tell that they were on their P's and Q's, and they went out there and played like they wanted it, and they got it done.
Yeah, Carolina gets out to a huge lead. You felt that a Duke run was eventually going to come. The Duke run happens behind Filipowski. Jeremy Roach hits a three to cut the lead to a 1-point lead for Carolina. And then Carolina answers that run by going on a 9-1 run and kind of distancing themselves further from this Duke team. When you talk about crazy stats, the fact that Duke never led in Cameron Indoor Stadium in this game against Carolina, and then they only led 16 seconds in the first meeting in Chapel Hill. Is this just a case of this Carolina team matches up really well with this Duke team? Because for it's a big sample size, 80 minutes of basketball, for Duke to only lead in 16 seconds of those two games and be 0-2 in those two games, it feels like it speaks a lot to how good this North Carolina team can be when everything's kind of clicking on all cylinders for them.
Oh yeah, when they're clicking on all cylinders, this team is a Final Four team, and you can see that. The one thing that stood out to me, and I've been harping on this all season long, is the way that they're able to win. So in that first matchup, you have Armando and Harrison having really good games, dominating the paint. And then you have this game where it's Cormac Ryan who's the one shooting lights out, knocking down 6 of Carolina's 7 threes. And, this is a guy that hasn't been shooting lights out all season long. And so when you talk about a championship team, they can win in different ways. They can win when RJ isn't the one, your ACC player of the year isn't the one leading the stat sheet. And I think that just really stands out for me in this Carolina team, is that they can win with different guys being the one or being the initiators. Harrison Ingram can get going and be that guy that they give the ball to. Armando can be that guy. RJ can be that guy. Cormac Ryan, not necessarily like off the dribble, but like they did in the second half. They the one play that I love was the fake back door to Armando for a cross screen. And Cormac's defender was waiting for Armando at the block, and they just set a down screen for Cormac to get out to the wing for a three. Like, he can be that type of guy where they run actions for him when he's knocking it down at that clip. So I just think when you look at this Carolina team, the way that they're able to win in different ways, I think that's what's so hard about them being scouted, because you just never know who can come out and have a really good game that game.
Yeah, Cormac Ryan, 31 points, 6 of 8 from 3. He was the one who kind of set the tone for this Carolina team offensively in that Duke game. And I think one other aspect I saw, and one other stat I saw that kind of highlights where Cormac Ryan is a great player for this North Carolina team, and one of the players that can kind of help him do that. Elliot Cadeau pushing the ball in transition, because according to Synergy Sports, Ryan is shooting 52%, 13 of 25 on transition threes this season. So the other thing I noticed in the Duke game was talking about the intensity, the 50-50 balls. A lot of them were going to Carolina. They were first to the floor on a lot of the balls, diving for loose balls. It feels like the intensity that you're going to get from Hubert Davis and somebody like Harrison Ingram. And I don't think we talk enough about how good of a defender Cormac Ryan is and how hard he works. But it feels like this team has kind of taken on the identity of Coach Davis in these high-stake games where you're not questioning their intensity. You're not questioning their fight. You're not questioning their hustle and their heart. And when you talk about Carolina basketball, play hard, play smart, play together, that's what it looks like this team is doing.
Yeah, they are. One of the things is all those things that you mentioned, the playing hard, the playing smart, the playing together, the 50-50 balls, the intensity, those are controllable actions. Those are things that no matter what is going on during the course of the game or during the course of the season, you can always control those things and you can always rev it up. And so I think if those boxes are checked, all the other things will take care of itself. You can't control if the ball is going in the basket. You can't control what the other team is doing, but you can control how hard you play and the intensity that you show up with on every single possession. And to your point with Cormac, I think I do agree that a lot of people have overlooked some of his other intangibles. It's just because it's not something that shows up on the stat sheet and you can't quantify it. And so people don't, if you don't know, if you don't know to look for those things in the game, it's hard for you to understand his value. And he's been getting a lot of crap about his shot all season long, but look at how he defends. Look at the intensity that he plays with. And when he's playing with that type of intensity, look how it permeates throughout the team. When you have guys diving on the floor, when you have guys, when guys are celebrating for one another, going to pick your teammate up, those are the things that make the difference. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have those things, then you don't have a good team. People in the transfer portal, especially today, want to go and find the most talent. The talent, that's not the equation. The equation is trying to find the right pieces that fit what it is that you want to do. Cormac fits that piece of a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hand to have an impact on the game. Harrison Ingram is one of those guys that doesn't have to have the ball in his hand to have an impact on the game. And I just really think that they control those controllables so well. And Coach Davis makes sure that those guys are showing up each and every day playing with that type of intensity. And then from there, we'll give ourselves a chance to be able to be in a position to win a ball game. And that's what they're doing.
And when you're talking about this North Carolina team, starting five-wise, as good as any other team starting five in the country between Cadeau, Cormac Ryan, RJ Davis, Harrison Ingram, Armando Bacot. But what did you see in this Duke game, particularly from Jalen Withers and Seth Trimble, and kind of the lift they gave this team with their performances off the bench?
Those two guys are so huge, man. So important for this team. I really do like I believe in having bench production. Not guys that are necessarily coming off and you're not asking them to, average 10 or 12 points off the bench. But Seth Trimble is another one of those guys, man, that on the stat sheet is not gonna wow you, but his impact on the game is there. The way that he defends, I love what Jay Billis always says, man. He says Seth Trimble just looks like he was born in a stance. I love when he says that, but it's true, man. When he's guarding, he can really put pressure on the opposing guards, and it really disrupts what other teams are doing. And then Jalen Withers, like, I want people to know that dunk that he did, that's just a glimpse of what he can do. When you have a guy like Armando who is dominating what he has done in the program in front of you, sometimes you just have to keep developing and let the smoke clear and then have your opportunity. But what a luxury to have Jalen Withers being able to come off the bench. Or I'm thinking of Jalen Washington. Sorry. He's another guy. But that Jalen Washington, that's a glimpse of what we will see in the future. But Jalen Withers and Seth Trimble, they bring the athleticism that's kind of missing in that first in the starting five. So I just think, man, those two guys are key. And then you add in Jalen Washington as well.
Yeah, and you talk about waiting for the smoke to clear, and kind of ties into the next question I have. In the Duke game, you have the tripping incident with Kyle Filipowski. You see in the pregame, RJ Davis shooting around, and Duke fans are talking all kinds of crazy things to him. Playing in that type of environment, what do you think it says about this North Carolina team that they are able to block out the noise, and they are able to block out distractions and whatever on-court incidents might happen, they're kind of able to rise above it and put on one of their best performances of the year?
I think what Carolina did at the beginning of the season, going on the road for 4 straight games, was pretty ridiculous. I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like 4 games in a row where they were on the road, and they got it done. So I think this team on the road has been really good this year, and that's what happens when you have a veteran team. They're the 5th most experienced team in the country, and just the way that they have a togetherness about them, they're able to go in whatever environments and be able to compete. And I just think that's also a testament to the preseason, or not the preseason, but the non-conference schedule the gauntlet of schedule that they had, being able to have some neutral games, and playing against these top teams. They just are together. And when you're together as a team, it doesn't matter what's on the outside. You're able to stick together. And we interviewed Cormac Ryan on after the Duke game, and I thought, man, what he said was just so perfect. Is that they have no cracks. And he was talking about on the court, but he was also talking about no cracks in the fact that, like, if there's something that needs to be said, they are so together where they can get it out on the table, and then they can keep it moving and they can stay together. And he just talked about in the interview just how much of a blessing it is to play with guys who actually care about one another, and who they don't care who's at the top of the scoring, or the top of the scouting sheet, or whatever. They just love playing with one another. I thought that was so beautiful because that's something that's missing nowadays and is overlooked.
You see the pictures after the team wins in Cameron Indoor, and they're celebrating in the locker room. And I saw on Instagram Marcus posted one of the photos of the team celebrating, and he said something like, reminds me of our playing days, and he tagged you, tagged Bryce, tagged Theo. I want, from your perspective as somebody who has won in Cameron, what is it like to win there, going back to the locker room, getting back on the bus, going to Chapel Hill? Because we see the celebrations, and then we see the team get back to Chapel Hill. Cormac Ryan's on top of a bus somehow. What is it like from your perspective on what those nights are kind of like?
Man, quarterback is wild for that one, man. That is hilarious. I had to refresh the video. I was like, there's no way. And it's just so funny because we were in that same position where we went back into to the Franklin Street. And I never thought about that. Like, we just all wanted to stay on the bus. These dudes are on top of the bus and then outside, like it's a block party. I'm like, man, these dudes are wild. But I was it brought a smile to my face because it did bring back 2016 vibes. Going in that environment, man, is hostile. As we saw in the video, which the video with RJ Davis and what those people were saying, that's unacceptable. But it is what it is. You block that stuff out. But just being that just adds to why you want to go in those type of environments and get wins. But being able to go down into that locker room and celebrate, I have all of these crazy photos from the locker room. My strong man, that was on there. I wish I had NIL because I would have sold the hell out of that shirt with the strong man on the front. But going down there, seeing Marcus' face, like all of that stuff, man, it's awesome. And I was just so happy for those guys, and I could feel them in that moment. But it's just so special because it's not only for you, but look at all the people that were out there celebrating and supporting them. And that's what it's about. Without the fans, this game wouldn't be what it is. And so being able to go in the Cameron and do that, and be able to get that win and then bring it back to Chapel Hill, man, it's so awesome. And I'm glad the guys were able to experience that because that's something that you'll look back on when you think about your career.
Quick break so I can remind everybody about our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. If you're going to be in Chapel Hill, you could visit them on Franklin Street. If not, no worries. You could go online to johnnytshirt.com. They have the rivalry gear to celebrate Carolina sweeping Duke in the regular season. They have the regular season champs T-shirts. They have everything that you could possibly want as a Carolina basketball fan. The hats, the T-shirts, the jerseys, you name it, they've got it. Great people, great customer service. And don't forget, Inside Carolina premium subscribers save 10% off their orders. Joel, the regular season finishes. RJ Davis is named Player of the Year. Hubert Davis is named Coach of the Year in the ACC. ACC Player of the Year means RJ Davis will go up in the rafters, a spot right next to your jersey. What do you think that honor means to RJ, and just how deserving he is of that award?
Yeah, just how fitting is it that he's going up in the rafters, and that's what we own right now, man. We up in the rafters. That's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about greatness, baby. And we called it. We called it last week, and said that they're going to sweep it. And that's what they did. But it's so awesome, man. First off, I just want to say congratulations to him, because I have to apologize again for myself, but for everyone else too. We all left him off of the ACC, all ACC teams. So it's not the fact that, like, it's not, he was on, like, not just all ACC. This man won ACC Player of the Year, blew everything out of the water. So myself and everyone else just need to get on their knees and just say, RJ, we are so sorry, man. But this is awesome. He deserves it. He's put in the work, and he's done it consistently. And I wish I had the stat in front of me, but I know in all the games against AP top 25 teams, I believe he was averaging like 20 points. So that just goes to show that he was doing this all season long. This wasn't just something that showed up here in the ACC play. He's been doing this from day one, and has been doing it consistently. So hats off to him, and I'm happy that I can be his rafter mate. That would be awesome. I got Justin on the other side. I got RJ on one side. Man, that's great company.
A lot of greatness.
A lot of greatness right there in those three. But then you look on the other side, it's a lot of greatness, and then you come up some, and it's just too great. But I'm just so happy, man. And then Coach Davis as well. Think about the turnaround that he's had. Number one, AP number one in the country. You don't have the season. You don't even make the tournament, and now you turn it around. You win the regular season title, and then you win Coach of the Year. You got an ACC Player of the Year. And by the way, too, you know what came out?
What's
Caleb
that?
Caleb Love, Player of the Year in the Pac-12. Just think about that, man. So awesome. But so it just goes to show what Coach Davis has done, and I'm happy for those two guys.
Final voting in the ACC Player of the Year, RJ Davis got 68 votes for first place. Somehow it wasn't unanimous. Phil Pawski got 3 votes. PJ Hall got 2 votes. Armando Baycott got 1. And shout out to the one person who voted, Quentin Post.
I want to know who did these. I want to know.
That should be public.
They should have just left that. They should have just said how many votes RJ got and just left it at that. I understand Armando for what he's done in the past, and he's the only one in the ACC right now averaging a double-double. But come on, bro, you got to be kidding me, man. That makes me upset.
I just want to know who did it, because those people just can't be trusted. If you're just gonna throw away your vote like that, you can't be trusted. Although
I will banned. From voting again. Like, seriously, like, I understand that we all have our opinions, but come on, man.
And maybe whoever the voter was just had good foresight into the future. Quentin Post, great game against Miami.
I guess so. Right. Hey, I said the same thing. I said last night, I was like, well, whoever had the vote, they must have known Quentin Post was going to come out to tomorrow or the next couple of days and do what he did last night. That was impressive.
Other awards: RJ Davis named to the All ACC first team, Armando Baycott selected to the second team, Harrison Ingram selected to the third team, and Elliot Cadeau was placed on the All Rookie team. Also, Armando Baycott was named to the All Defensive team. Before we wrap up, a big shout out to our friends at Congruity. Congruity is a North Carolina-based national coverage, local presence company with personal support straight from the Tar Heel State. Congruity is empowering small and mid-sized business owners with HR and payroll outsourcing, enabling you to grow your business while they take care of your greatest assets, your people. And they are doing it with top-of-the-line technology and services for every stage of your business's growth with a state-of-the-art online platform. Congruity, they are obsessed with customer service where they become part of your team. They do the heavy lifting, providing essential admin support with a single point of contact and support available on demand with services that are tailor-made for you, transforming your organization. Congruity has helped hundreds of businesses improve and enhance their day-to-day lives, level up your HR capabilities, save money, unlock game-changing growth. Visit congruityhr.com/Tar Heels to learn all about Congruity. Fill out a quick form to be connected to their consultants, and they'll give Inside Carolina listeners or viewers a payroll and HR assessment for free. That's congruityhr.com/Tar Heels, congruityhr.com/Tar Heels. All right, back to the episode. The last time we were in DC for an ACC tournament, 2016, you guys win it all against Virginia. What do you remember most from that experience? And from your experience, what does it take to win a conference tournament when you are playing games on at least 3 straight nights?
Yeah, the one thing is this is just the season where you have to be a professional. We always talk about being a professional, showing up, and doing what needs to be done. So that's getting the rest, getting the hydration, getting what you need off the court. That's very important. But most importantly, it's a mental game too. So we would, after the game, you celebrate like when coaches talk about like having a 10 or 20-minute celebration, we get back to the locker room, there's a celebration. But now when you leave that locker room, you get on the bus and you get to snack at night or dinner at night. Oh, it's on to the next game. So you have to be locked in and understand your matchup, the scouting report, and what the next team is doing, because that's how quick the turnaround is. So I think that's the difference maker in these tournaments is teams and coaches who can get their players to understand and be able to dissect the scouting report as fast as possible and be able to hold on to it and stay true to it throughout the game. And but most importantly, you have to make sure that you are doing those things, because right now a lot of guys have nagging injuries, so you have to be able to navigate through those. But from my time, I just remember the UVA game, man. It was hard. It was a hard fought game, but it was high level. Every single play was very valuable. In every possession, you had to be effective, especially against a UVA team. But this is a good moment. This is the best moment. They take you back to AAU days where you're playing, a lot of games in a row. So, I think Carolina has the recipe to do it. But this is where you want to be, man. Like I said early in the podcast, whenever championships are on the line, you want to bring your best game.
We're recording this Wednesday morning before the Virginia Tech FSU game to determine who Carolina is going to play. Is there a team you would rather see UNC play in terms of matchup, or who do you think would be a better matchup for this Carolina team?
Yeah, I think if there was one team, I would go with Virginia Tech just because I feel like they have Sean Padula, they have Hunter Couture, but outside of that, I think you can kind of lock in on those two guys and make other guys score the ball. Lynn Kidd has improved a lot, but I just don't think they have a lot of the pieces to be able to compete with this Carolina team, and they don't have the depth either. And that's what scares me about Florida State, and why I don't want to go with them. We think back to the game where they were up 5 at halftime earlier in the season, and Carolina had to make that huge push in the second half, and it was still a close game, and Florida State just started turning over the ball. So I think this Florida State team, man, they're one of those teams you don't want to see just because of what they can do and how volatile they've been throughout the season. But also just the way that they compete. It's almost like Virginia, but on the other side of the spectrum. They speed you up, they get after you, they make you play from the half court, and they just play with a type of toughness and grittiness to where you have to come and you have to compete, and it's a tough game. So that's why I'm a little worried. And I wouldn't want to see Florida State right now.
You look at the bracket for this tournament. If I asked you and you had to pick championship matchup, UNC Duke Part 3 this season, or any other matchup, which would you choose as most likely to happen?
Man, it's hard because I think Clemson can be one of those teams that knock Duke off. I think they can do that, just because they have the pieces, and they have a lot of pieces, and they've been playing really well here at the end of the season. I guess if we, just to fit your hypothetical situation, I will go. I would say it could be Carolina Duke again, part 3. I just
Oh,
think
wow.
those teams, yeah, when you look at what those teams have done, they're both at the top of the conference, and from 2 to 3, I think it's Carolina Duke in the conference. But Clemson can be one of those teams that challenges Duke to be able to get to the championship.
We'll see how it plays out. Carolina first has to win Thursday at noon on ESPN. It's going to
First
be
things
against,
first.
yes, it's going to be either Florida State or Virginia Tech in that game. But again, Thursday, noon, ESPN. Joel, appreciate the time as always, and appreciate everybody watching and listening.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my guy, and go Heels.